Well, hello there, and welcome to a brand spanking new episode of Love Kills by Melanin Mayhem Podcast, hosted by your favorite country girl, Renee Davis. Ooh, if this is your first time over here at Love Kills, let me run it down for you. You see, Love Kills brings you the stories of relationships and situationships that took a hard left off into some gangster shit that ended with somebody getting their water turned off permanently. If you know what I'm saying. While we focus on serial and high body count shenanigans on Melanin Mayhem, Love Kills is more of the one-off variety of killations. You know, one fucked up individual did some real trifling and fucked up shit one time, and I get to tell you about what that one time was. And while whatever the fuckery is that they did might not rise to the level of a Melanin Mayhem story, please understand that whatever it was entirely uncalled for and audacious as fuck. So here's the deal. I got a story. You want to hear it? Well, here we go. For today's tale of love gone bad, we are headed to the Lone Star State, y'all. That's right. It's Texas, baby. And this situation was a shocker because usually the one that's doing the killing of the love is a dude. I mean, statistically, you know, y'all been here with me. But today, my crime cousins, oh, nay, my friends, today, estrogen takes center stage. And this story is gonna blow your minds because who the fuck would do something like this? Not a woman, not a wife, not a mother. She the killer? Ooh, honey. So let me tell you, we are in Houston, Texas, and it's the spring of 1987. We are locked in on what seems like a couple that makes hashtag couple goals, right? A cute little family of four. We talking Frances Newton. She is wife and mother. Adrian Newton. He is husband and father. And their two little goobers, 7-year-old Alton and 21-month-old Farrah. Now, this little devoted family, they lived in an apartment at 6126 West Mount Houston Road in Houston, and they were a young couple. Frances was only 22 years old, and Adrian clocked in at 23. So if you do the math, they had been together since they were in their teens, like around 14 and 15 years old, because they got a 7-year-old, right? So I think it's pretty safe to say that they grew up together. Now, with that being said, please understand they had their fair share of bullshit in a relationship. Infidelity, inconsideration of feelings, disrespect, and all that, because they were kids that were growing into mature adults. But on the surface, they appeared to be trying to make it work. But Frances did say that Adrian couldn't keep his dick in the house, and after a while she was like, shit, if it's good for the goose, then it's good for the gander. And she started doing her own extracurricular activities, getting her groove on OPP style. And if you let the street committee tell it, Frances was a good mother. She was a church-going woman, trying to get her husband to straighten up and fly right. But standing by his side with the assistance of a side piece. You know what I'm saying? Y'all know that what they say, the entree ain't as good unless it's got some on the side. That's how some people feel. I don't know. Apparently it's working for Frances and Adrian. Now, the street committee, they had a little something to say about Adrian, too. They say he was for the streets a little bit. They say he dibbled and he dabbled with the recreational mind-altering substances, both for himself and for commerce. You know what I'm saying? He was out there as a street pharmacist sometimes. And they also say that he liked to club and he would be on the scene, but he always came home eventually. You see, according to Frances, Andre wasn't a provider type per se. That was more Frances's thing because Adrian was doing basically YN type of shit. But I mean, at 23, it tracks. The fact that he is married is a plus. I mean, maybe his mind was in the right place, but you know, age-wise, he still got some youngness in him. And y'all know, the ladies are always more mature than the men. So I don't know. I am not giving him any excuses or anything. I'm just pointing out facts. But him and Frances, they say they would argue and they would cuss each other out about them bills that he wasn't contributing to, how he needed to stay his sorry ass in the house sometimes or whatever. But there were no reports of anything of the physical variety. Nobody was laying hands on nobody. And you know, it looked like maybe, just maybe, that open-styled marriage might have been working for them. You know, sometimes it works. Everything ain't for everybody. And it worked until it didn't work. You know, somewhere around March 1987, R. Kelly started playing softly in the background. Ooh, y'all know sometimes when Robert play, it ain't good. And y'all know that when a woman is fed up, it ain't nothing you can do about it. Ooh, honey, all you can do is hope she just walk the fuck away and don't take the nuclear option. Well, apparently, Frances was gonna walk away, but she was gonna get paid first. You see, it all started when she took out an insurance policy on her husband and her children in March of 1987. Oh yes, she got a $50,000 policy on Adrian and a $50,000 policy on baby Farrah, as well as $50,000 policy on herself. Now, her son Alton, she didn't get a policy on him because he already had a policy, so there was no need to get another one. Now, on the surface, that seems like the responsible adult type of thing to do. We all gonna die, and rather than have your peoples having a fish fry or a GoFundMe to bury you, you go ahead and take care of your business. But Frances, she didn't tell her husband that she had taken out the policies. In fact, she forged his signatures on the goddamn documents. Now wait a minute, Frances. If everything was on the up and up, why you keeping secrets from Adrian? Well, Frances say it was because she didn't want him to know that she was putting a little piece of change to the side to pay the premiums. She felt like he would have wanted that money to do some right now type of expenditures rather than planning for their future. I don't know, Frances. That shit ain't passing the sniff test. It kind of seemed like you plotting and you scheming. And guess what, y'all? She was. Remember, R. Kelly was playing softly in the background. But that following month, after she took out those policies, oh, baby, but that following month in April, Robert was singing loud and clear. And for Frances, she apparently woke up and chose violence on April 7th, 1987. Now that's a Tuesday. Just random as fuck. Nothing out of the ordinary. Just a regular Tuesday. Adrian is at the house doing nothing. The kids are doing kid shit. And Frances, well, she's doing her mother, woman of the house type of things, you know. Everybody's been fed. She done cleaned up a little bit. And now everybody is just chilling. Well, around 7 o'clock that night, Frances leaves the house to go run over one of her people's house, right? For a little minute, she gonna be right on back. And Frances says that when she left, Adrian was snoozing on the sofa and the children were in their room. And 1 hour later, 1 hour, we're talking 60 minutes, Frances says she is back at the house. And when she opens the door to her apartment, the unthinkable had happened. In the span of 60 minutes, Frances's little family was disconnected. Oh yes, she walks in the house and she sees Adrian leaking. He been shot in the head and he been covered with a sheet. So then she runs to the children's room and there she finds Alton. He's been shot in his chest. Oh my God, where is baby Farrah? Frances finds her in her high chair with a half a bottle of milk. She has been shot too. Everybody is dead. Oh my Lord, today. Well, Frances, she manages to call 911, and it's about 8:30 that night, and she is screaming, and she is hollering for help. And the police, they pull up on two wheels, and they start investigating the goddamn scene. Well, Frances is distraught. Oh, baby, she is screaming, and she is sobbing, and she is hyperventilating. Baby, she even fainted. Madame is hysterical and had to be treated by the paramedics. And you know, that tracks, right? I mean, you come home and your man and your kids been sent to the upper room. That's how you supposed to act. But is what's happening here acting? I mean, is Frances playing her part, getting her Oscar award-winning performance on? Well, wait a minute, Nate. Well, why you say that? I say that because the police are there and they are doing what police do when they pull up on the scene or some shit that done went down. They are investigating, right? And to them, some shit ain't adding up. The detectives, they are standing around scratching their heads because something in the milk ain't clean. Big old red flag number one, there are no signs of forced entry. Ain't nobody kicked in the door. The locks ain't been jimmied. None these people, this little family, Francis, her husband, and their children, they stay on the second floor of the apartment building. So unless Spider-Man is the perpetrator, didn't nobody come through a motherfucking window. So how in the fuck did this family of 3 get murdered? Adrian looks like he was asleep on the sofa. He is even covered with a sheet. So, did someone knock on the door? Adrian got up, answered the door, knew the person at the door. He lets them in, and then he got back on the sofa and snuggled up while this person he knew shot him in the head. And then this person goes and shoots the kids and then lets themselves out of the house and lock the door on the way out. I mean, I guess it could happen like that. But I don't know of many considerate killers that exhibit that type of energy. And then there was big old red flag number 2. Ain't shit missing from the house. All the electronics are still there. So ain't nobody looking to take nothing. This is not a robbery. Okay. Suspect, but let's keep going. But then, y'all, big old red flag number 3. Nobody tore up the place looking for no money or no drugs. It wasn't no signs of a struggle. Everything is in its place, all tidy and shit. Like, there is nothing in no way, shape, form, or fashion that you could look at this apartment and think that there was any type of struggle of any kind that happened in this house. So it wasn't a robbery. It wasn't a drug deal gone bad. It wasn't a I'ma fuck y'all up and find my shit. So what the fuck happened here? Now, by the time all of these things are being discussed by law enforcement, Frances has been bundled up and taken away to her mama and them house, right? But her apartment is still very much an active crime scene. And then some shit happened that blew this case in a very different direction. You see, while all them flashing light peoples was doing what they do, tell me why Frances's cousin pops up on the scene to have a word with the detectives. Ooh, wait a minute. Now I'm talking about Frances's cousin. This is Frances's blood I'm talking about. Cousins say Frances went and put a gun in an abandoned house next door to her mama house where she's at currently. Let that sit out there for a minute. Now wait a minute, Nay. Fuck you mean Frances went and hid a gun? Just what the fuck I said? Cousins say they saw Frances hide a bag in a burned out house next door to her mama's house, and inside that bag was a gun. Now, Houston police is like, ain't that about a bitch? And they go follow up on what cousin had said. And I be Jim Brown. If goddamn it wasn't a bag with a 25 caliber gun in it in the burned out house next door to Frances's mama house, just like cousin said. So now the detectives need to have a little chat with Frances, cause this shit here ain't adding up. So the detectives, they go to Frances and they have her to walk them through her entire day. And she does. She says that she was at home and she decided to go by her cousin's house. She left her house about 7 p.m. that night and she came back to find everybody dead. Now at this point, she has calmed down. The shock apparently has worn off. And the cops, they're looking at her and at how calm she is. I mean, she's not cold, but she's very controlled. A far cry from the hysterics that she was putting on at the scene of the crime. And look at here. I don't know a whole lot about how one should behave when talking to law enforcement when some shit has gone down. But I do know that they always think that the spouse some kind of way was mixed up in the shit. So you need to continue to be distraught every time you speaking with a member of the goddamn law. Cause baby, that calm demeanor, it's gonna come back to haunt Frances. The very next day, she was arrested on 1 count of capital murder. Within a week, the investigators had zeroed in on one word: insurance. They found out that Frances had taken out those life insurance policies on her husband and her daughter just 21 days before the murderation. Ooh, and we talking about $100,000, and she is listed as the sole beneficiary. Frances, how come your husband ain't listed as a co-beneficiary on Farrah's policy, ma'am? Ooh, and add to the fact that you just took those policies out just, 3 weeks before the killations? Now, to a preacher, that might have looked innocent. Maybe you just a young mother trying to plan for the future. But for the popo, paired with everything else they had found, it painted a very different picture. That 25 caliber pistol, it was purchased not too long before the murders. And guess who that gun belonged to? Y'all ain't gonna believe this here. The gun belonged to Francis's side piece. Oh yes, honey. Francis's side piece, his name was Charles Jones. Well, the police, they went and talked to old Charlie boy. And Charlie said, look here, I keep that gun in the drawer in my bedroom, in my house. And Frances has known all about the gun. She know where it is. She know that I got it. And she got access to it because sometimes Frances washes my clothes and puts them away for me. So she comes in contact with said drawer where said gun is. And I hadn't been looking for it, I ain't got no reason. And as far as where I was on April 7th, brother man Charles, oh boy, had a rock solid alibi. He wasn't nowhere near the scene of the crime. So they cleared Charles, but Charles has one on the head and set Francis all the hell the way up. But that ain't even the worst part, y'all. I mean, it's bad, but it gets worse. The coup de grace, the skirt that Francis had been wearing that day, it had gunpowder residue on it. Ooh, woo. Detective says, hey, that means you either fired the gun yourself or you handled the gun after it had been fired. I mean, because just holding a gun that ain't fired no bullets, that's not gonna leave no gunpowder residue. In order to get the residue, the gun has to have the trigger pulled so that a bullet can exit the barrel and sprinkle some of that powder that leaves the residue. Ooh, shit, Francis, what you got to say about that? Baby, Francis got something to say. Francis was like, look, that don't mean nothing. That residue could have been transferred when I picked up that gun after the fact. But ma'am, how and why would you pick up a gun after the fact? If your family is dead and gone from a gun, why you gonna take what could be the murder weapon out the house? See, it ain't making sense, Francis. And here come the lies. First, she lied about knowing anything about a gun. A gun? What gun? I don't know about no gun. I don't even know what a gun is. Then she was like, oh, you talking about that gun. I don't know where it came from. Girl, you know you done fucked up, right? You have sealed your own fate. Because once the cops catch you in that first lie, they stop believing the rest of your story. The only thing to do now is crank up the jury. And that happened October 18, 1988, when Frances Newton found herself standing in a Texas courtroom fighting for her life on this capital murder charge. Now understand, New Orleans Nation, before we got to court, the prosecution did indeed offer Frances a deal. If you plead guilty to killing your peoples, we'll take the death penalty off the table. Frances said, not me. I ain't taking the deal. Let's let the jury decide my fate. Okay, babe. As you wish. And that's why we are in a courtroom now. The district attorney in this case, Joe Magliolo, he broke it down. He was like, this crime was clean and it was brutal. Frances planned on starting a new life after she killed her family. She was going to walk into her new life unencumbered with a bag from her dead family's insurance payout. And a new man to boot. Ooh. Oh, hang 'em high Joe. He told the jurors that Frances was cold. She was calculating and she was heartless. She had been planning this murder for weeks. She had took out the policies. She got access to a gun. And then she either pulled the trigger 3 times or she knew who pulled the trigger 3 times. And then the star witness for the state, Frances's cousin, got on the stand, held her hand, one on the Bible, one hand high. And she said, you did that shit. I saw you put that gun in a blue book bag and put it in a cabinet in the abandoned house next door to your mama's house. And that was the gun that killed your husband and your kids. Ooh, shit, cousin. That's deep right there. For cousin to get on the stand, y'all. Ooh, that's deep than a motherfucker. That's deep as hell. Now, Frances' defense was led by Catherine Coulter and Ron Mock, and they had almost next to nothing to fight back with. They have no witnesses. They have no real alternative suspects. So their argument was that, hey, Adrian had a girlfriend. Maybe she did this shit. Or maybe Adrian's drug life, what he was doing out there in them streets, that might have brought danger to the front door. He probably owed somebody some money, and that somebody else probably came to collect their debt. That's okay. Okay. And then Frances got her ass up down the stand. She too put one hand on the good book and the other one in the air and said the following bullshit. This is out Frances's mouth, y'all. She said that she left the apartment around 7 o'clock that night with the gun that the police found in the house next door to her mama's house. She says that she took the gun out the house because she didn't want Adrian to do nothing stupid with the gun. She was protecting her man, not killing her man. She says that when she left the house with the gun, that little 25, her husband and her kids was alive and kicking. She said when she got back to the apartment, she really couldn't remember that much because it was all a blur. She kind of remembers walking into the house and seeing her husband not moving on the sofa. She goes over to him and she thinks that there was a sheet on top of his body. She thinks that she moved the sheet, and when she did that, she saw the blood and started freaking out. And then she went to go see where her kids were, and then she found her babies gone on to glory too. Frances went on to say that, yeah, my marriage was torn apart because of infidelities on both of our parts. But I might have did some little shady shit with Charles. But that goddamn Adrian, my husband was foul. Ooh, he was foul as fuck. Frances says that she caught Adrian in the bed with his brother, another woman, and with her 15-year-old sister. Now, I don't know if they was all in the bed together, separately. I don't know. But if this is true, woo, child, you should have shot his ass right then and there. And then you would have skated on the murder charge. But clearly, you let that shit go. So why the fuck you bringing it up now? Then she went on to say that it was because Adrian used drugs that just caused too much strain on their marriage. But she and her husband had recently decided that they was gonna work on their shit and get that old flame back. But then somebody killed him before they could. Frances, girl, that was the best that you and your attorney could come up with. I mean, I was low-key rooting for you, girl. Till you said that bullshit about taking the gun out the house in your own words, taking it to your mama's house, and everybody was alive when you left. Ma'am, that's when you lost me. Because, girl, let me tell you something. The state has established that said gun that wasn't in the house was the gun that killed your family. And by your own words, you was the last motherfucker to put hands on said gun. So you mean to tell me that you took the gun out the house to keep Adrian safe, hid it in a burnt out house next to your mama house, and then somebody came behind you, got the gun, went back to your apartment, killed your whole family, locked up behind themselves, and then went back to the burnt out house and put the gun back all in the span of, let's say, 40 minutes? Because remember, you the one told us that you left the house at 7 and you was back at the house at 8. Girl, juicy smooth yay much? Not to mention, your cousin dropped big dimes on your ass at the same damn night. Like, not waiting later, the same damn night. And that tells me one of two things. Either you ain't shit and your cousin know you ain't shit, and that's why they told on your ass without being offered a reward. I mean, because we all know that money talk, but wasn't no money on the table. This shit had just happened. Crime Stoppers hadn't even had time to get some shit together before your cousin was telling it all. And if that ain't it, the other thing that it could be is that your cousin ain't shit and was on some, I don't know, fatal attraction kind of time. But then, if that was the case, how come you or your attorneys ain't said nothing like that at the time that your cousin is lying on you or none of that? So I'm gonna go with you the one ain't shit. I mean, baby, for your people to tell on you before they even moved the bodies out the house, child, please. Let me tell you something. Black cousins, they don't snitch. It's in the rule book. We don't snitch. Not on your cousin. Now, you might go to the cousin after the fact and be like, you know what, that was fucked up. And bitch, you gonna have to pay me out this motherfucking money that I know you finna get. We don't drop dimes. We will take that shit to the grave. Your cousin went right up to the detectives and told it all that very same night. And everything that your cousin told the detectives turned out to be true. Girl, And then there's no forced entry. Nothing was stolen. There's no sign of a struggle. Bitch, you did that, or you know who did that. And I'm gonna tell y'all, the jury was thinking like me. They weren't falling for the okie doke. You can't paint this picture to make this shit make no kind of sense. You cannot piss on our heads and tell us that it's raining. What we dealing with is fact. What actually fits. The gun fits. Them insurance policies, oh, they fit. That lie, that you trying to get us to believe, that shit don't fit. And that was the final nail in your coffin, boo. Tell y'all, the jury deliberated for 2 hours, 120 minutes before coming to a unanimous decision. Frances Elaine Newton was convicted of capital murder on October 24th, 1988. 2 days later, on Wednesday, October 26, 1988, it took the jurors less than an hour to come to another unanimous decision and sentence her to death by lethal injection. You the one that wanted to crank up the jury. I'm just saying. With that flimsy ass lie, your counsel should have been telling you, girl, let's take this goddamn deal. If you want to live, let's take this deal. But of course, immediately following the verdict, the automatic appeal process starts. And it takes time to actually getting around to disconnecting a motherfucker. And in Frances's case, it took 17 years. That's how long she sat on death row at the Mountain View unit in Gatesville, Texas. 17 years of appeals, motions, and letters to the court, to the parole board, to the governor, to anybody who would listen. 17 years of Frances insisting that she did not do it. Now, after the fact, during the appeal process, when, shit's all been said and done, now Frances is saying that she only got the gun because she was scared, because Adrian, her husband, he had enemies out here in these streets. Then she said that the residue that was on her clothes, that had to be from contamination. Ain't no way that shit got on me. And then she said that she lied about the gun because she didn't want her boyfriend Charles getting dragged into a murder case. But girl, why the fuck are you lying about anything if your family has been murked by somebody and you ain't have shit to do with it? That just don't make no sense to me. Knowing that once you are in the spotlight as a person of interest, that shit only gets worse when you start telling lies. Telling lies makes you look guilty as sin. Handling a gun that was in your house on the day your people got unalived don't make no kind of sense. Not even on paper. But you did that shit. Let me tell you something. I come home and my whole family is murdered. Y'all don't know, but we got a whole heap of guns. I ain't touching now one of them. Not a now damn one. I didn't have anything to do with it. Yes, I've been fucking around on my old man. His name is Charles. You can go over there and talk to Charles. I wash his clothes sometime, but that's all I do. I'm not telling you no lies because I don't want you to think that I did it. That's what most innocent people, that's the take. My whole family been killed. I ain't lying about shit to nobody. I ain't covering from nobody. Fuck all that. Maybe my side piece did the shit. He got a gun. He keep it in his drawer. I see it when I wash his clothes. I'm just saying. I don't know. Now I'm gonna tell y'all, over the years, as with everything, the story started coming up that, maybe that the state's case wasn't as strong as they thought it was. Maybe the ballistics evidence was inconsistent, that chain of custody, some of those records, they disappeared. Maybe the crime scene wasn't properly secured, but the gun wasn't at the crime scene. The gun was somewhere else. I don't know. And of course, there was civil rights groups and pastors and other church people and activists who didn't believe in the death penalty. They were all rallying for clemency for Frances. They said that Texas was going to execute a woman on circumstantial evidence and racial bias. But I'm saying, this is Texas. Out of all 50 states in Texas, mercy does not come easy. And the damn show ain't cheap. It's too late for mercy, ma'am. They've already said that you got to go. And got to go is what's finna happen. September 14th, 2005. Ooh, that was the day before my birthday. How is it that I can always find a way to work my birthday into a story? That is so not the point. On the 14th of September, 2005, Frances Newton was led to the death chamber wearing all white. Very virgin. You might need that. She was getting ready to pay the ultimate price and go plead her case at the pearly gates for them to please let me in. She didn't cry. She didn't curse. She looked at her family through the glass and she said this: I did not do this. I love you all. The drugs went into her veins at 6:17 p.m. on September 14th, 2005, and by 6:21 p.m. on September 14th, 2005, Frances was out of here. And she did make a little piece of history. Frances was the first black woman executed in Texas since 1858. Outside the death chamber building, the protesters, they were shouting her name. Y'all know how they do. Inside, the state was like, shit, this is just closure for us. And, years later, of course, there are questions. Did she do it? Did she not? If she was guilty, why risk the execution instead of admitting? And if she was innocent, how could the state just kill her knowing that the evidence was maybe circumstantial? And that's the thing about Love Kill stories. Sometimes they don't always give you answers. I just report the news, the way it went down. The truth is, Frances Newton was either the most heartless killer that Texas had ever produced or a miscarriage of justice. But I do believe that if it had just been her husband that had been murdered, Frances would probably be free on the streets by now. She would have. In 88, they would have given her a 20-year sentence because, murder is bad. But it was the babies. It was her children being killed that put the stank on it. That's just too much to walk away from. You cannot kill the kids. Nobody wants to see murdered children. Period. Now, whether or not Frances pulled the trigger, I don't know. And the state, to tell the truth, they didn't know neither. But it was just too much circumstantial evidence. Plus, cousin out there telling all the business. If Frances did not pull the trigger, in my heart, I feel like she knew who did it. And since you felt like you needed to protect that secret with your life, it's only fitting that you paid the ultimate price for this crime with your life. And either way you chop it up, 3 people died in that apartment that fateful day, and a 4th person died trying to prove that she didn't kill him. Ain't that about a bitch? Love and money, sometimes they don't mix, honey, oil and water. But Frances Newton, her story is not just about murder. It's about perception. How a lie can destroy you faster than a bullet. How a black woman's calm becomes proof of guilt. And how love, twisted through desperation, can turn lethal even when you didn't pull the trigger. Let's talk about this shit online, baby, because, this was a whole lot of. I'm talking about foolishness and fuckery on a whole nother level. And I need to go get me some herbal refreshment after this one, honey. Y'all hit me up on the social media sites. You can find me online. Y'all know I am Melanin Mayhem Podcast on every social site except for X, where I am Melanin Mayhem PC. The email is also open for you. It is melaninmayhempodcast@gmail.com. If you didn't know, let me hip you to a little piece of game. There is a fabulous discussion group over on Facebook. It's a private discussion group where we kiki and we chit chat, and they always get the news of anything that I'm doing before anybody else. The discussion group, you can find us. It is the Melanin Mayhem Podcast discussion group. Answer a couple of questions and I will let you in, because remember, membership has its privileges, honey. And also, before I let you go, if you have not gotten your ticket to the virtual event for the Black True Crime Collective, aka the BTCC, for our Seasons Slayings show, baby, what are you waiting for? Head on over to Eventbrite and get your tickets today. It's a virtual event, so you can kick it with your favorite country girl and my crew of the True Crime Podcasters, entertaining you with all the criminalistic shenanigans as only we can do it. Don't meet me there, y'all. Beat me there, okay? All right. I gotta get up out of here. So until the next story ends in tears and tragedies and relationships take a big old hit, y'all stay safe and play that shit smart. And remember, love and emotions will make you do some crazy shit. Please, for the love of Black Jesus, don't get caught up and fuck around and be on an episode of Love Kills, because I will tell your shit. Sure will. I will see you guys again in 2 Fridays for another Love Kills situation. But baby, if you can't wait that long, every Wednesday you can find me popping off with Melanin Mayhem. Ooh, you know you have to get your weekly dose of the country girl. I thank you so much for listening today. And guess what? The country girl is out of here.
Ooh-wee, Nana, you did that.